Have you ever made a decision that made you smack your forehead later and ask, "What was I thinking?" Of course, we all have. But most of our mistakes don't play out on the national stage, like the blunders made by NBA executives and players over the years. I'm talking about moves that had fans and analysts alike shaking their heads and wondering if common sense had gone out the window. In this video, we'll look at 10 transactions and choices that left even casual basketball followers puzzled and asking one question: why? From drafting busts to bad contracts to short-sighted trades, we'll review decisions that teams and players wish they could take back. While hindsight is 20/20ths, some of these moves had questionable logic right from the start. As we count down these head-scratching decisions, consider what forces drive franchises and athletes to make picks that seem so clearly unwise in retrospect. Whether it's ego, impatience, desperation, or simply not thinking things through, even the best front offices and players fall victim to lapses in judgment at times. And when they do, the ripple effects can hamper a team for years. So get ready for some cringe-worthy moments that executives would love to erase from their resumes. It's all part of the unpredictable, entertaining, and sometimes perplexing world of the NBA. Let the countdown of facepalm-worthy decisions begin. 1. The Blazers pass on Michael Jordan. Kicking off our list at number 10 is the Portland Trail Blazers' fateful 1984 draft decision. With the second overall pick, the Blazers opted to select standout center Sam Bowie over University of North Carolina shooting guard Michael Jordan. At the time, Portland already had an all-star guard in Clyde Drexler, so they hoped Bowie would provide front-court depth alongside Bill Walton. An understandable strategy perhaps, but one that profoundly altered the trajectory of NBA history. While Sam Bowie enjoyed a serviceable 10-year career, his resume pales next to his airness. Jordan exploded onto the NBA scene, redefining perceptions of athletic possibility with his gravity-defying drives and dunks. His obsessive competitiveness fueled 6 championships, cementing his status as the consensus GOAT. Portland fans can only wistfully imagine what might have been had Jordan taken flight with the Blazers instead of the Bulls. This mistake should temper our tendency to be overcritical of team executives. Portland made a reasonable pick given their roster composition at the time, yet Jordan's singular talent and work ethic elevated him into the stratosphere. So while this decision tops our list based on its long-term impact, we sympathize with the Portland front office. Sometimes players simply exceed any reasonable projection of their potential. But for Rip City, watching Jordan capture glory elsewhere will always be a bitter pill. 2. The Harden Trade. The fallout from our number 9 spot began in 2009 when the Oklahoma City Thunder selected James Harden with the 3rd overall pick. Joining Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, Harden quickly emerged as an elite 6th man and a core piece of OKC's bright future. But in 2012, their visions of a dynasty collided with financial realities. Despite reaching the NBA Finals, the small-market Thunder faced a dilemma. With lucrative contract extensions looming, they couldn't retain all their star talent under the salary cap. Seeking financial flexibility, OKC dealt Harden to Houston rather than offer him a maximum deal. While the move provided short-term savings, it ruptured their foundation and altered NBA history. Unleashed as Houston's primary offensive option, Harden evolved into a scoring machine, claiming MVP honors in 2018. His individual brilliance ended Golden State's stranglehold on the West in 2019. Meanwhile, in OKC, Durant and Westbrook lacked sufficient support, falling short of championship expectations. After a frustrated Durant left for Golden State in 2016, the Thunder entered rebuilding mode. Clearly, finances played an overriding role in this decision. However, trading a franchise cornerstone in his prime in a league where star power dominates has repercussions. And for OKC, they're still feeling the tremors of losing Beard. Back-to-back titles likely disappear without Durant's move to the 73-win Warriors. It's possible to imagine an alternate timeline where Harden stays, OKC's core remains intact, and the league has another juggernaut. Alas, we'll never know. 3. The Knicks' Eddie Curry deal. Checking in at number 8 is one of the most confounding trades in Knicks history: New York's acquisition of Bulls center Eddie Curry in 2005. Enticed by Curry's averages of 16 points and 5 rebounds the prior season, the Knicks paid a princely sum: 2 future first-rounders, the draft rights to LaMarcus Aldridge, and more. This sky-high price for a middling center was questionable already. But what made it truly bizarre was Curry's known heart condition. He'd missed the entire 2001 0-2 season after experiencing an irregular heartbeat. Multiple doctors cleared him to play, but questions lingered about his long-term health. As expected, Curry's New York tenure proved an unmitigated disaster. While he posted a career-best 19.5 PPG in 2006-07, his poor defense and rebounding failed to move the needle for a floundering Knicks squad. After 2007, Curry's scoring and conditioning precipitously declined. He'd appear in only 10 more NBA games after 2010, his career derailed by the same heart issues that made acquiring him so risky. But the real sting came from how New York used the draft picks they surrendered. In 2006, Chicago selected LaMarcus Aldridge 2nd overall, only to trade him for Tyrus Thomas. Then in 2009, the Bulls drafted Joakim Noah, a fiery defensive anchor and franchise cornerstone for Chicago's resurgence. Watching Noah lead the Bulls over multiple talented Knicks teams only twisted the knife further for long-suffering New York fans. They were left wondering what might have been if not for this short-sighted deal. 4. The Pistons draft. Darko Milicic. Coming in at number 7 is a cautionary tale of what happens when teams focus on potential rather than demonstrated production. Heading into the vaunted 2003 NBA draft, the Detroit Pistons held the 2nd overall pick. This was an exceptionally talented crop, featuring future MVPs LeBron James, Dwyane Wade, Carmelo Anthony, and Chris Bosh. Yet inexplicably, Detroit selected relatively unknown 18-year-old Darko Milicic. Hailing from Serbia, Milicic drew intrigue for his size and skills at such a young age, but by essentially redshirting him as a rookie, the Pistons stunted his development. Darko averaged fewer than 8 minutes a game as Detroit won the 2004 championship. Nonetheless, he became an NBA punchline after highly touted prospects like Melo and Wade immediately flourished. Darko would last 10 seasons in the NBA, but never remotely approached expectations, averaging 6 points and 4 rebounds over his undistinguished career. Meanwhile, Detroit passed on 3 future scoring champions in their quest for upside over NBA readiness. As Darko burned out, the Pistons' decline followed soon after, failing to return to the finals. Now, this isn't meant as a hit piece on young Darko. He joined the NBA before his body had filled out, so some struggles were inevitable. But for a championship contender like Detroit, choosing potential over sure things proved a sizable misstep. One that still haunts Pistons fans watching Melo, Wade, and Bosh inevitably book trips to Springfield. 5. The Celtics trade Kendrick Perkins. We reach the halfway point with the Boston Celtics' controversial 2011 trade of starting center Kendrick Perkins. After losing Game 7 of the 2010 Finals, the Celtics sent the defensive cornerstone to OKC for Nate Robinson and Jeff Green. Now, in a vacuum, this didn't seem an unreasonable move. Boston sought an injection of athleticism while selling high on the plodding Perk. But basketball isn't played in a vacuum. Intangible elements like chemistry and fit with the roster play a huge role in team success. Case in point, in his first full season back from ACL surgery, Perkins anchored Boston's stout defense along with Kevin Garnett. They allowed a minuscule playoff figure of 96 points per 100 possessions en route to the 2010 Finals. Perk battled valiantly against the Lakers' bigs despite torn knee ligaments. This earned him respect in the Celtics' locker room as a warrior who left it all on the floor. Thus trading Perkins fractured the team's solidarity as much as their defense. Without his brick wall presence down low, opponents torched Boston inside. What's more, it signaled the breaking up of Boston's vaunted Big Three era far earlier than necessary. The window for another title run had seemed cracked open before suddenly slamming shut. For his part, Jeff Green failed to replace what the Celtics lost, never embracing a role as a defensive stopper. And the personal toll was just as severe. Boston's elder statesmen, like KG and Paul Pierce, lamented the trade, bereft without their brother-in-arms. Ultimately, the Perkins trade marked the death knell of an era in Celtic lore. 6. The Nets' 2013 trade with the Celtics. Just outside our top 5 is the disastrous 2013 trade between the Boston Celtics and Brooklyn Nets. Eager to make an immediate splash after their move from New Jersey, the Nets acquired aging stars Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Jason Terry from Boston. In exchange, they forked over 3 first-round draft picks and the right to swap picks in 2017. Initially, the deal bore fruit for Brooklyn. With a 44-38 record, they climbed into the East's elite thanks to Pierce and the big ticket. But their upside proved limited. After losing in round 2 in 2014, Pierce left in free agency. Garnett and Terry steadily declined as injuries mounted. By 2016, the Nets found themselves in full rebuild mode. That's when the true extent of damage came into ugly focus. Boston cashed in Brooklyn's 2014 pick on dynamic guard James Young. In 2017, the Celtics swapped picks with the hapless Nets, moving from the 27th overall selection down to the 1st. There, they drafted Jason Tatum, a future all-star at just 19 years old. And the hits kept coming. In 2018, Boston selected guard Carson Edwards with yet another of Brooklyn's first-rounders. Make no mistake, 7 years later, the Celtics are still reaping the harvest of essentially stealing the Nets' future. Add in all the losses since trading their picks, and it's no wonder Nets fans have tried exorcising memories of that ill-fated Pierce-Garnett blockbuster from their minds. Mortgaging the future for marginal short-term gains is almost never wise. The Nets found that out in spectacular fashion, to the tune of 3 straight losing seasons. Let it be a warning. Impatient front offices end up with eggs on their more often than not. 7. The Magic trade Oladipo and Sabonis. In 2016, the Orlando Magic kicked off a rebuild by dealing away standout forward Tobias Harris. Surprisingly, they quickly abandoned that youth movement months later. Eager to return to contention, Orlando traded rising talents Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis to Oklahoma City for defensive stalwart Serge Ibaka. Initially, this seemed like a reasonable gamble. Ibaka would provide rim protection alongside budding big man Nikola Vucevic. Meanwhile, Oladipo was averaging just 16 points while struggling with efficiency issues. And Sabonis hardly played as a rookie in Orlando, so trading potential for an established performer like Ibaka appeared savvy. But barely a year later, Magic fans were smacking their foreheads. After just 56 games, Ibaka was shipped to Toronto as Orlando's season circled the drain yet again. Meanwhile, Oladipo and Sabonis swiftly blossomed into all-stars with Indiana following their stint in OKC. Oladipo captured 2018 Most Improved Player honors while leading the surprise Pacers to the playoffs. And Sabonis evolved into a highly skilled big man under coach Nate McMillan, earning consecutive All-Star selections. As the duo flourished elsewhere, Orlando remained mired in mediocrity. Lacking an identity and direction, they put the lie to the notion that acquiring Ibaka would spur meaningful success. In the end, trading Oladipo and Sabonis for a short-lived rental of Ibaka proved a crushing misstep. One that resonates as Orlando meanders through their longest playoff drought in 13 years. Patience is tough for struggling teams, but this taught a painful lesson. Sometimes slow and steady growth beats chasing quick fixes. 8. The Lakers signed Deng and Mozgov. 400 words. The Lakers' 2016 free agent signings of Timofey Mozgov and Luol Deng. In the first offseason of the post-Kobe era, Louisiana inked the two veterans to eyebrow-raising 4-year deals worth $64 million and $72 million respectively. This was partly an overreaction to striking out on big fish like Kevin Durant in free agency. Still, handing nearly $137 million to a pair of role players was perplexing, even factoring in the new TV deal jacking up salaries league-wide. Unsurprisingly, both signings proved utter debacles almost immediately. Mozgov had shown flashes of filling in for an injured Anderson Varejao during Cleveland's 2016 title run. But moving into LA's starting center spot, the lumbering Russian looked woefully overmatched. Despite standing 7-1, Mozgov averaged just 4.9 rebounds in 2016-17 before losing his starting job. Former All-Star Luol Deng actually fared far worse. As a result of ongoing injuries, his scoring numbers plummeted after moving to LA. Deng wound up starting just one game in year 2 of his mega deal. Between poor performance and locker room frustrations, Deng was essentially exiled, appearing in only 56 games over 2 forgettable seasons. Following 2017-18, the Lakers bit the luxury tax bullet. They stretched Deng and Mozgov's contracts just to escape salary cap purgatory. Stuck paying the remainder of their deals until 2021 and 2023 respectively, Louisiana felt the ramifications of this blunder years later. The Deng-Mozgov contracts continue to live in infamy as a case study of overpaying for over-the-hill veterans. It hamstrung LA's flexibility during a pivotal rebuilding stretch, and Julius Randle ultimately lost his roster spot due to their albatross deals. Suffice to say, rarely do big splashes made in desperation end well in the NBA. 9. The Suns trade away Joe Johnson. In one of the more lopsided NBA trades ever, we land at #3 with Phoenix shipping away rising star Joe Johnson to the Atlanta Hawks. Coming off their stunning 62-win 2004 0-5 campaign, the Suns were establishing an exciting offensive identity under Steve Nash. The centerpiece was their lethal point guard pairing, with Johnson averaging 17 points alongside Nash. Yet, in a cost-cutting move, Phoenix elected to deal Johnson for disposable bench pieces in Boris Diaw and 2 future first-rounders. This move startled many observers. While Johnson's scoring figures appeared replaceable with Nash and Amare Stoudemire still in tow, he was also an excellent complementary playmaker alongside Nash in the backcourt. As feared, losing Johnson created a tangible void for Phoenix's attack. They remained elite offensively behind MVP Steve Nash, even exceeding 60 wins again in 2006, 0-7. However, the Suns struggled to match up with bigger contenders like San Antonio in the playoffs. Their lack of wing creators beyond Nash was often their undoing. Meanwhile in Atlanta, Johnson tapped into his immense potential as the Hawks' #1 option. His scoring figures leapt to over 20 points per game while earning multiple All-Star nods. By contrast, players like Raja Bell and Leandro Barbosa failed to adequately replace Johnson as secondary ball handlers next to Nash. A legitimate title contender in 2005, Phoenix slowly declined after this deal into just a wildly entertaining regular season squad. One wonders if Joe Johnson could have pushed an aging Nash-Stoudemire duo over the top. In a razor-thin loss to the Spurs in 2008, it sure seems plausible. Sometimes, franchises fail to appreciate what they have until it's gone. Phoenix learned that the hard way. Phoenix learned